When the night stretches its velvet fingers across the sky, you might find yourself staring at a single candle flame, feeling its flicker echo the tremor of your own heart. How many times have you watched that flame dance, only to feel the sudden, cold wind that snuffs it out before you can even grasp its warmth? In the quiet moments between breath and heartbeat, an invisible hand pulls at the threads of your being, tugging you toward a void that feels both familiar and alien. It is in those silent, trembling spaces that the shadow of abandonment takes root, a silent specter that haunts the corridors of your mind and the walls of your relationships. You've likely felt that ache before, when someone you love, who once promised forever, slips away like a phantom, leaving behind a hollow echo that reverberates through your thoughts. That ache is not merely a fleeting sadness. It is a deep, resonant wound that shapes the way you perceive trust, safety, and the very nature of connection. Have you ever wondered why the absence of a loved one can feel as if the world itself has turned its back on you? Why the silence after their departure seems louder than any word spoken? The answer lies not in the surface, but in the unseen currents that flow beneath the veneer of everyday life. Imagine for a moment that your psyche is a vast, ancient library, its shelves lined with books that record every encounter, every promise, every betrayal. Within this library, there are volumes that have been sealed, their pages hidden behind layers of dust and darkness. When someone abandons you, it is as if a key is lost and the door to those volumes remains ajar. The secrets within stir, whispering truths that you have never dared to confront. The mind, in its attempt to protect itself, begins to weave patterns, guardians of the heart that manifest as fear, suspicion, and an ever-present sense of unworthiness. These patterns, though subtle, are powerful, shaping the way you approach love, the way you set boundaries, and the way you ultimately heal. But what if the very act of abandonment is not just a personal wound, but a cosmic echo? In the realm of the occult, the departure of a loved one can be seen as a release of a soul's energy, a necessary step in the evolution of the self. The silence that follows is not empty, but filled with hidden currents, synchronicities that guide you toward a new path, a new understanding of your own essence. Have you ever felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to seek out a place you never thought you would, only to find a revelation waiting for you there? That is the subtle language of the universe, speaking to you through the cracks left by abandonment. The psychological impact of this phenomenon is vast. It can manifest as a trembling heart that refuses to trust again, a mind that spirals into self-doubt, and a soul that feels perpetually adrift. Yet, within this turbulence lies a hidden power, the potential to awaken to a deeper, more authentic self. The darkness that surrounds abandonment is not merely a void, it is a doorway. When you step through, you may find yourself confronting your own shadows, your own fears, and your own unspoken desires. The journey is not easy, but it is inevitable. It is a path that many tread unknowingly, yet it is a path that can transform the very core of who you are. So, as you sit in the dim glow of your candle, breathe in the cool night air, and let the silence speak, consider this. Are you ready to listen to the whispers that come from the abyss left behind? Are you prepared to turn that ache into a compass, guiding you toward a new horizon? The story you are about to hear is not just a tale of loss. It is a narrative of transformation, a dance between light and shadow, a mystery that invites you to discover the hidden truths of your own heart. Let us begin this exploration, for the shadows that loom are also the very places where the most luminous revelations await. When the veil between worlds grows thin, the abandoned soul discovers a hidden corridor lined with mirrors that reflect not only the self, but the collective unconscious. In this corridor, each reflection is a different archetype, an anima whispering, an animus roaring, a shadow trembling. The abandoned individual is drawn to the mirror that shows the most frightening image, themselves bereft of the beloved, standing alone in a cavern of silence. Yet this image is not a punishment. It is a summons to confront the part of the psyche that has been left in darkness. Consider the power of the shadow. It is not merely a repository of guilt, but a reservoir of untapped potential. When abandonment erupts, the shadow awakens with a roar, demanding attention. Imagine the shadow as a stormy sea. Its waves crash against the shore of your conscious mind, eroding the sand of complacency. The storm does not merely destroy, it also clears the path for new growth. By stepping into the storm, you allow the wind of change to carry away old patterns, making room for fresh currents of insight. Now, think about the role of the anima in this process. The anima, that feminine inner voice, may feel abandoned even if the external partner is male. Conversely, the animus, the masculine aspect, may feel abandoned by the feminine. When either side feels neglected, a dissonance emerges, a cosmic imbalance that ripples outward. This dissonance can manifest as a series of uncanny coincidences, synchronicities that point you toward a specific ritual or practice. Perhaps you find yourself repeatedly drawn to a certain song, a particular color, or a symbol that appears in your dreams. These are not random. They're signposts from the universe, nudging you toward integration. In the realm of occult practice, one might invoke the concept of a binding spell, not to cling to the past, but to release the past. By crafting a ritual that acknowledges the loss and then ceremonially lets it go, you create a symbolic act of severance. Picture a candle that burns for a full night, its wax melting into a bowl of water. The water, once clear, becomes stained with the candle's color. When you pour it into the fire, the flame swallows the stain, purging the residue. This simple act can mirror the psychological process. You acknowledge the wound, let it flow into a safe space, and then allow it to be consumed by a new flame, your renewed sense of self. Another layer worth exploring is the concept of shadow projection. When we feel abandoned, we often project that feeling onto others, labeling them as unreliable or unloving. The projection is a mirror that reflects our own unresolved abandonment. By recognizing this projection, we can turn the mirror inward. For instance, if you find yourself accusing your partner of neglect, pause and ask, "Am I projecting my own fear onto them?" This question can dissolve the illusion of external blame and replace it with a deeper understanding of the internal void. Furthermore, the idea of destiny intertwines with abandonment. The abandonment experience can be viewed as a catalyst that nudges the soul toward a new destiny. It is akin to a seed that, once uprooted, must find fertile soil elsewhere. The seed carries with it the genetic imprint of its former home, but also possesses the potential to germinate in a different environment. This transition, though painful, is essential for growth. By embracing the notion that abandonment is a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block, you shift your perspective from victimhood to stewardship of your own evolution. Conversely, if you cling to the idea that the past defines you, you become trapped in a loop of reliving the abandonment. This loop is a closed circuit, a feedback loop that perpetuates fear. Breaking this loop requires conscious intervention, an act of willful detachment. Think of it like unplugging a device that has been feeding you a toxic signal. Once unplugged, the device can be reset and new, healthier signals can be introduced. Similarly, detaching from the emotional circuitry of abandonment allows you to rewire your brain toward resilience. Finally, consider the subtle interplay between synchronicity and intention. When you set an intention to heal, the universe may respond with synchronicities that reinforce your path. For example, you might see a recurring number sequence, 111, 222, 333. That seems random, but actually signals alignment. By acknowledging these signs, you create a dialogue with the cosmos, inviting guidance. This dialogue is not a passive waiting. It is an active partnership, where your intention and the universe's synchronicities coalesce to form a new narrative. In sum, the abandoned psyche navigates a labyrinth of archetypes, shadows, and synchronicities. Each corridor, each mirror, each ritual offers a chance to transform pain into power. By engaging consciously with these elements, you step beyond the echo of loss and into the vibrant, uncharted territory of self-rediscovery. Reflecting on this journey so far, you find yourself standing at the crossroads of shadow and light, where every hesitant step has been a silent negotiation with the unseen forces that shape your inner landscape. The threads you have woven, each a strand of intuition, each a flicker of curiosity, have begun to intertwine like vines climbing toward a single, luminous trunk. As the vines stretch, they do not merely coil around the trunk. They coalesce into a canopy that filters the harsh glare of uncertainty into a gentle, filtered glow. In the quiet spaces between the thrum of your heartbeat and the whisper of the wind, a subtle resonance emerges. It is as though the cosmos, in its infinite patience, has been composing a symphony, and the notes you have played are now harmonizing into a chord that hints at what lies beyond. The resonance is not a simple echo. It is a complex layering of frequencies that, when heard together, suggest a new direction, one that beckons you toward a horizon you had not dared to imagine. Imagine, if you will, a river that has been dammed for years, its waters stifled, its potential locked behind stone. The dam has grown thin, cracks forming at the joints where the stone meets the earth. The pressure beneath is relentless, and when it finally yields, the water surges forth, carving new valleys, reshaping the land. In this metaphor, your inner journey has been that dam, a period of containment and reflection, a pause that has allowed the waters of experience to gather depth and clarity. Now, the dam's walls are on the brink of yielding, and the waters are ready to flow into the next stage of your narrative. The anticipation that builds in this moment is not a mere afterthought. It is a living, breathing anticipation that has been cultivated through the very acts of inquiry and surrender you have undertaken. It is the sense that, as you turn the page, the ink of your story will not merely be ink. It will be a living testament to the alchemy that has taken place. The alchemy is not a final product, but a process that invites you to step into a new role. One where the alchemical pot is your own psyche, and the gold you seek is the integration of all the fragments that have been scattered. As you stand on this precipice, the horizon seems both familiar and novel. The familiar is the echo of the lessons learned, the subtle shifts that have already begun to reshape your perception. The novel is the promise of a future where those lessons no longer feel like weight, but rather like wings. The wings, however, are not simply an extension of your current self. They are an invitation to become a version of yourself that has been refined by the crucible of your experience. The path forward, then, is not a straight line, but a spiral that both returns to and expands upon the points you have already visited. It is a spiral that allows you to revisit the roots of your curiosity with newfound clarity, to re-encounter the questions that once seemed insurmountable, now rendered approachable by the light you have cultivated. The spiral is a reminder that growth is not linear, but a dance of ascent and descent, each loop adding depth to the next. In this liminal space, the anticipation you feel is a quiet drumbeat that speaks of transformation. It is a subtle reminder that the story you are about to unfold is not a conclusion, but a continuation, a chapter that invites you to write your own ending. The next words you will read, the next breath you will take, will be guided by the resonance that has been building, the quiet promise that the journey you have embarked upon will lead you to a place where the abandoned heart learns to trust again, to open its gates, and to let the light in. The night's silence has become a mirror, reflecting not only the absence that once seemed absolute, but the quiet possibility that the void itself is a doorway. In that doorway, the abandoned heart does not merely wait for the other to return. It learns to walk beside itself, to hear the faint pulse of its own resilience. The psychological echoes of loss, once a chain, are now a compass pointing toward a deeper self, a place where the shadow is not an enemy, but a companion in the quest for wholeness. As we step through that threshold, The patterns that once dictated our reactions begin to shift. The fear of being unchosen, the instinct to cling, the tendency to project our own emptiness onto others, all find new expression in a language of integration. We recognize that the abandoned parts of us are not scars to be hidden, but keys that unlock doors we never knew existed. When we allow these keys to turn, the rooms of our psyche, once darkened, glow with the light of understanding. The journey is not a solitary pilgrimage. It is a dialogue with the unseen forces that weave our lives. The archetypes that once seemed distant now speak in familiar tones, inviting us to listen to the stories they hold. The anima whispers of tenderness we have longed for. The animus challenges our perceptions of strength, and the shadow invites us to confront the parts of ourselves that have been left behind. Each voice, once heard, becomes a thread that stitches a new tapestry of identity, richer and more authentic than the one we left behind. In the crucible of abandonment, we discover that the greatest alchemy is not the transformation of base metals into gold, but the transmutation of pain into purpose. The same forces that once threatened to erase our sense of self now become the very catalysts that propel us toward a future where love is not a fragile promise, but an enduring partnership with ourselves and others. The abandonment that once felt like a rupture becomes a rupture of the old, making space for a new, more expansive way of being. When we finally look back at the path we have traversed, we see not a series of broken steps, but a staircase carved from resilience. Each step, though steep, is a testament to the fact that we are capable of turning the most devastating experiences into sources of strength. The darkness that once seemed impenetrable now reveals its own hidden light, a reminder that even the deepest shadows contain the seeds of illumination. So the moment we find ourselves standing on the cusp of this new horizon, let us remember that the true practice begins not with a single act, but with a continuous, intentional commitment to our own growth. It is a practice of listening to the subtle whispers of our inner world, of honoring the rhythm of our emotions, and of embracing the mystery that lies between the known and the unknown. By doing so, we become co-authors of our own story, wielding the pen with courage and compassion. As the candle's flame steadies, let it remind you that each breath is a chance to rewrite the narrative of abandonment. Let the silence that follows not be a void, but a fertile ground where new possibilities sprout. The true practice begins now, and with each deliberate step, we transform the ache of loss into a living testament of our capacity to love, to heal, and to rise.